Hello, I'm Sensei Kakuyo, North American contributor for Buddhist Global. Thanks for joining me for this episode of The Ordinary Buddhist. The title of today's Dharma talk is Flowers on the Vine. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. As the garden continues to grow, one thing I truly enjoy is watching the natural life cycle of plants. First you plant them as a seed, and then they sprout above the soil. They get bigger and larger, their trunks become thicker, their leaves become more complex. And in the case of beans and tomatoes, something very interesting happens. They get flowers. Now, normally you don't probably think about flowers when you think of tomatoes or green beans. No one's going to have a green bean stalk in their wedding bouquet. But tomatoes and beans both have flowers. They grow the flowers first, and then once those flowers are pollinated, they grow into tomatoes in the case of tomato plants, and in the case of beans, they grow into, you guessed it, beans. So it's always exciting because ideally every flower you see on the vine will turn into food for you and your family. It's a real treat as a gardener to count them and try to guess what the harvest is going to be. However, you have to keep an eye out. If we don't pay close attention to our plants, we won't see the flowers sprouting from the vines, and we won't know about the good things that are just around the corner. If we miss out on this, we might miss out on that little bit of motivation we need to keep going. Now, this is true of gardening, but it's also true of life in general. Our lives grow like beanstalks, like tomato vines. Sometimes the growth is easy, sometimes the growth is hard. Sometimes we grow straight up and down, sometimes we wiggle a little bit across the soil. But we are always growing in each moment of every day. And in the moments when life seems hard, it can be helpful to look out for the flowers. Those little areas of our life that are ripe for an explosion of growth. A new skill we're just on the cusp of mastering. A new job we're just on the cusp of achieving. But if we don't take time to look out for those flowers in our lives, we'll miss out on them. And we'll miss out on that little extra bit of motivation we might need to keep going when things are difficult. So when things are challenging, it can be helpful to ask ourselves, well, what's going right for me right now? And when we answer that question, we'll have a better idea of what will probably go right for us in the future. Thus, we take our attention off of the negative in our lives and we place it back onto the positive. In the same way, when looking out for the flowers on tomato plants or bean plants, can remind us that fresh food is right around the corner, even if we have to deal with some weeds and some bad weather in order to get there. As long as we keep looking out for the flowers on the vines, we'll be able to keep going in the midst of hardship. Amitabha.